Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, you open Instagram, but instead of your feed, you see this. Users under 16 are not allowed. TikTok, Snapchat, Reddit, X, YouTube, all the same. It sounds extreme, but this is no longer hypothetical. Australia has already started enforcing under 16 social media restrictions, and other countries are considering similar rules. Supporters say this protects children. Critics say it may simply push the problem into less visible places. So the question is not simply, should we ban it? The real question is, what is the ban trying to solve, and can it actually solve it? The country that has gone the furthest is Australia. Its rules require major platforms to take reasonable steps to stop users under 16 from holding accounts. But Australia is not the only place talking about this. Norway is preparing a social media age limit around 16. Denmark is discussing a ban under 15 with a possible parental exceptions for 13 and 14 years old. Portugal's approach is closer to parental consent. Users aged 13 to 16 would need explicit parental approval. And the UK's national consultation ended in May 2026. In June, the government announced that certain social media services would be banned for users under 16. With the changes expected to take effect in spring 2027, the government also plans to restrict high-risk features, including live streaming and contact from strangers. At the EU level, the focus is not only bans, but platform applications under the Digital Services Act. So the phrase ban social media is actually vague. Some policies are for age restrictions, like Australia and proposal in Norway, Denmark, and France. Some require parental consent below a certain age, such as Portugal, Denmark's exception, and France's earlier digital majority rule. Some do not ban accounts but restrict specific features. Autoplay, infinite score, personalized recommendations, or safer default for minor accounts. So the first point is, not every ban is the same. The case for restrictions is not made up. Governments are not only worried that kids spend too much time online. More precisely, they are worried about several specific harms. First, mental health. A meta-analysis published in JAMA Pediatrics, it reviewed 143 studies. It included more than 1.09 million adolescents. The researchers found a significant positive association between social media use and internalized symptoms, such as depression and anxiety. This does not mean social media is the only cause, but it supports a cautious conclusion. There is a real signal of risk here. Second, problematic use. Two teenagers may both spend 3 hours a day online, but one can put the phone away at any time. The other feels unable to stop. Research shows that problematic social media use is significantly associated with depression, anxiety, and stress symptoms. The correlation with anxiety is about 0.35, and the correlation with stress is about 0.31. So if policy focuses only on screen time, it may miss the real issue. Third, sleep. A 2024 study followed 79 adolescents aged 11 to 14. It found that screen use before bed had limited effect. But using screens after getting into bed, especially gaming and multitasking, was associated with less sleep. Not all screen use is the same. Timing and type of use matter. Fourth, cyberbullying. This is not just online drama. A systematic review looked across dozens of studies. It found that young people who experienced cyberbullying faced higher risks. These risks included self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and suicide attempts. A large cross-national study found another warning sign. It analyzed more than 140,000 adolescents across 35 countries. Teens who experienced cyberbullying were more likely to report psychosomatic complaints, things like poor sleep, nervousness, and feeling low. And problematic social media use may make that harm harder to escape. because phone is always nearby. For some young people, bullying does not end when school is over. It follows them home through comments, notifications, and group chats. Fifth, body image. The US Surgeon General advisory reported that 46% of teens aged 13 to 17 said social media makes them feel worse about their body image. Research also finds that social comparison on social media is associated with body image concerns and eating disorder symptoms. The issue is not simply being online. It is repeated exposure to idealized content and algorithms that keeps recommending more of the same. 6. Platform design. Infinite scroll, autoplay, push notifications. These are not neutral design choices. So the strongest argument from government is this. It is not only a family issue, it is a platform level issue. But if we stop here, the story becomes too simple. Because social media may carry risks, and a ban will work, are two very different claims. The first question is, how large are the effects of social media on teenagers? An umbrella review of 25 reviews found something important. Most reviews interpreted the link between social media use and mental health as weak or inconsistent, but a smaller number interpreted the link as substantial or harmful. In other words, this is not a simple story of nothing to see here or social media is always harmful. The second question is, how large is the average effect? A large dataset study of more than 350,000 adolescents found the digital technology use was negatively associated with well-being, but the average association was very small. At most, it explains 0.4% of the variation in well-being. That detail matters. A small average effect does not mean no one is harmed. It may mean that many teenagers are affected very little. But some teenagers, some patterns of use, and some platform designs may matter much more. The third question gets closer to the policy debate. Even if social media carries risks, do we know that banning it will improve youth mental health? A 2026 perspective reviewed 40 experiments that restrict or reduced social media use. It found that these studies largely did not study the young people who would actually be affected by use bans. Not a single study reported an average participant age below 18. In other words, the experimental evidence used to think about under 16 bans mostly does not come from under 16 teenagers. And these experiments were usually short. Half lasted 1 week or less. The average restriction period was only 16.3 days. That is very different from a long-term nationwide under 16 ban. And the results were not all positive. Some of the 40 studies found increases in well-being, but 8 studies found no result, and 8 studies found decreases in well-being after restriction. So this experiment cannot tell us that a broad use ban will necessarily work. The more accurate statement is, this is still an under-tested policy intervention. Teenagers' own experiences also remind us that the story is not one-sided. One study analyzed 2,061 posts from 1,038 teenagers aged 15 to 17. 58% mentioned negative experiences, but 45% mentioned connecting with others. 20% mentioned positive experiences, and another 20% mentioned seeking information. In other words, risks and benefits can coexist. For some teenagers, social media bring comparison, anxiety, and harassment. For others, it provides friendship, information, and support. That is why the National Academy's framework is not simply ban everything. It is maximize benefits and minimize harms. The real question is not, is social media good or bad? It is, which kind of use, for which teenagers, under what conditions, leads to which outcomes. Are you a parent, a teacher, or a teenager yourself? I'm curious whether people with different experiences see it differently. Do you think social media should be banned, or is there a better way? Tell me what you think and share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy videos like this, subscribe for more and see you next time.